Did you ever try joining a conversation at work and feel like you just walked into a secret club? You know, everybody's laughing about something, and you ask a question, suddenly silence, awkward silence. I remember once during a coffee break on a new ship back when I was a young officer, and I made a joke referencing a TV show, and nobody got it. One guy looked at me and said, "We really don't talk about that kind of stuff here." Ouch. That was a tough icebreaker for me. But that's when I learned. Even casual conversations have rules. Not the kind that are written on the wall or in the employee handbook, but they're the kind that everybody knows, and they expect you to know. So here's something useful for you. Next time you're unsure of what to say, start with a shared observation. Like, ooh, Mondays always feel extra long, don't they? So it's simple and relatable and a great way to break the ice. So today we're breaking down 4 simple but powerful rules for better office conversation, so you can sound friendly and natural and professional in any setting. So stick around for the Mastery Minute at the end, because today's phrase is one you'll hear in almost every English-speaking workplace. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat, and I'll answer those at the end. All right, let me tell you about Lena. She is from Taiwan, but she works on a global team in Singapore. Fluent in English, she's very hardworking and organized, but in meetings, she said she always felt outside the circle. During breaks or after work chats, she didn't know how to join in. So people were polite, but the conversations stayed short and very businesslike. So we focused on one thing: how to join small talk the right way. Not just jumping in with facts or questions, but understanding the flow of English conversation. About a month later, her colleagues started including her more. They'd ask her opinion, invite her to lunch, even joke around with her. And it wasn't because she changed her personality, it's because she started following a few simple rules. So let's talk about those rules. What exactly did Lena change? We didn't memorize lines or try to sound like someone else. It was about understanding the rhythm of English conversation. So we practiced a few key habits that work in almost any workplace. And I'm going to break them down one by one. All right? All right. So let's start with rule number 1. Match the tone. In English, how you say something is just as important as what you say. It's not just the words, it's the vibe, Let me give you an example. So I once had a client named Marco. He joined a new team in Australia. Super smart guy. But in his first team lunch, people were laughing and teasing each other, cracking jokes about weekend plans. Well, Marco, he was new, trying to make a good impression. He jumped in with a detailed comment about supply chain metrics. And everybody went quiet. Somebody awkwardly changed the subject. Marco told me later on, "I think I killed the mood." So what happened? We call this a tone mismatch. It wasn't what he said, it was when and how he said it. So when joining a group, the first thing to do is take 30 seconds and listen. Ask yourself, what's the energy? Is it light and chatty, sarcastic and fun, or serious and focused? Look, if the group is joking about traffic and you respond with, my quarterly report is on track, that's not really blending in. That's switching the station. So instead, try to match the mood. If they're light, you can keep it casual. If they're serious, keep it respectful and on point. Tone is the rhythm of the room. So learn to dance to it, and people will naturally let you in. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2. Start with shared observations. I mentioned that in the Thai talk. Jumping into a conversation can feel a little scary sometimes, but shared experiences are actually a safe entry point. It's one of the most natural ways to connect, especially in a professional setting where you may not know the people very well if you're getting started. I remember working with a client, we'll call her Sarah, and she was on a multinational team based in Hong Kong, and she told me she felt invisible during breaks. Everyone around her chatted easily, but she didn't know how to jump in. So I asked her, what do you notice around you that they notice too? Oh, that was the light bulb moment. She finally got the idea. So the next day, it actually was raining nonstop. Sarah sat next to a coworker, smiled, and said, "Ooh, I think we're going to need a boat to get home today." Right? It's simple, it's funny, and totally natural. Her coworker laughed, replied with a joke of his own, and they started talking. That was her in. That was how you get in the club. So shared comments, the weather comment, I think we're going to need a boat today, which is really witty, by the way. I must have rubbed off on her a little bit. You might talk about a meeting. Whew, that meeting felt longer than usual, huh? Or, I think everyone's ready for the weekend. That's a nice Friday observation. The coffee machine has a personality today. Those new coffee machines, they've got all the little whiz-bang features. Yeah, sometimes they might feel like they've got a personality. So these small little comments, they feel like they're small. You might think, this is nothing. But it invites a response. And they show that you're present and you're tuned in to the moment around you, which is the first step to real conversation. Start with things that people notice. Okay. Now, the next rule number 3, I call it the ping pong rule. Sometimes I call it the AAA rule, but we're gonna call it the ping pong. Good conversation is like ping pong. It's back and forth. And yet, I see so many people try to turn it into something else. Either they fire off a string of questions, which makes the other person feel like they're in an interview or an interrogation, or, on the other side, they go on and on about themselves, like they're giving a presentation. So, let me tell you about Kenji. Kenji was a client of mine working at a tech firm in Toronto, Canada. He's really naturally curious, which is great. But he once told me that even though he asked a lot of questions, his conversations never really went anywhere. So we realized, after talking about it for a bit, that he wasn't really sharing anything back. It was all, what do you do? Where are you from? No personal input. So we worked on balancing it. Now, instead of just asking, he might start with a statement. He said, "I watched a Korean film over the weekend. It really made me miss traveling. Have you seen any good movies lately?" So that's really the way to start. We ask questions that invite your colleagues to start talking to you, okay? To share their own experiences. But also, share your own experiences too. If you offer your perspective first, offer a little bit up first. It's like giving them a gift. It gives them something to work with. But then follow that up immediately with another question. Okay? So they're not feeling like it's an interview. Okay? Now, you also need to react, respond to what they're saying. Okay? That's the kind of rhythm that we want. So think of it like this. You serve the ball. They return the ball. And you keep the game going back and forth. Ask, share, react, invite. So you create an opening for their response. Start with a statement, end with a question. It's really a great way to build momentum. I often, again, call this the AAA rule. Answer a question, add more information, and then ask a similar question. It's incredibly useful. So rule number 4, I got to move it along here. Exits. No conversation lasts forever. Sometimes the energy fades or people have things to do, and that's okay. The key is to recognize those signs and leave the conversation on a high note. I had a coaching client named Lewis who told me he never knew when to stop talking. He'd finally start a good conversation and then keep pushing it until it got awkward. Does that sound familiar to anybody? So we worked on reading the signs. When people glance at their phones, shift their body away, or stop asking questions back, those are clues. So now Lewis says things like, well, I should get back to that report. Good chat. Or, all right, I'll let you get back to it. Catch you later, or see you later, right? And now, you know what? People appreciated that he is aware and he's not feeling clingy or awkward. And here's the really good bonus. When you exit at the right time, you leave people with a good impression, which keeps the door open for the next time you want to talk. And that's how strong relationships grow. So you're building respect one moment at a time, basically. I'm sure everybody knows that person who just doesn't know when to stop talking and things get weird and you don't want to talk to them anymore. You know what I'm talking about. At least I hope you do. All right, let's recap it really quick. Remember, rule number 1, match the tone. Adapt to the room's energy. Start with something shared. Rule number 2, look around, read the room. Find common ground, something to help you enter the conversation. Then keep the conversation going with the ping pong method. Balance your questions with your sharing. Get those two together so it's about equal, right? And finally, exit with grace. These small little shifts make a big difference because they help you sound natural. You're more friendly and confident in English anywhere, not just in the workplace, but since this is all about work. And if you watched this thinking, but I'm not funny or outgoing, don't worry. You don't have to be. You just have to know the rhythm. And now you do. Isn't that useful? If you're not funny or outgoing, check out my video on being witty or witty phrases. You'll love it. All right, your challenge today. Try one of the rules that we talked about in your next office chat or just regular conversation. It could be a comment in the break room, a short exchange in the hallway, or even a Slack message. Let me know how you use that in the comments, or tell me what feels the hardest about small talk down in the chat in your workplace. I'll reply a few, if there's any, I'll reply to a few after the Mastery Minute. And if you found this helpful, share it with a colleague, subscribe for more The full article is up on allaboutenglishmastery.com, and you can also see the link in the description back to the full article. And now it is time for my favorite part of the show, the Mastery Minute. We're going to talk about a phrase that everybody hears in the office, and that phrase is circle back. Circle back. You might have heard this in the past. You might have heard it, or maybe not. But circle back. It has an interesting backstory. This started in aviation and military contexts, where circle back literally meant to turn and return to a previous position or target. So imagine a pilot scanning a location and then circling back to focus again. It's very deliberate, strategic, and controlled. But by the 1980s and 90s, as corporate project planning and management culture took off, the phrase landed in boardrooms, and "let's circle back" became shorthand for revisiting a topic later, without sounding like you were brushing it aside. So now you'll hear it constantly. You'll hear it constantly in offices around the world. You know, something like, "Hey, let's circle back to this tomorrow," or "I'll circle back with more info after the meeting." The first press secretary for Joe Biden, when he was president, she used to say that phrase all the time. "Oh, I'll have to circle back. I'll circle back to you later," all the time. Check out the videos on YouTube. They're all over the place. So one of my clients used to say, "We can talk later." But her boss kind of thought she was being dismissive. So once she switched to "let's circle back once I have the numbers," it started to lighten the tone. It changed a lot. You see, it's the same idea as "we can talk later," but "let's circle back" sounds a bit more polished and professional. So next time you want to delay a topic, try "let's circle back." It's clear, confident, and it shows that you're still engaged. So let's circle back. All right, next time we're shifting gears for this episode on Monday. We will explore 7 email phrases that instantly improve your tone and help you sound more professional without sounding stiff. You'll learn why just checking in might come across as passive and what to say instead. You'll also discover the power of phrases like "would you mind?" or "thanks again for your time," and how these small shifts can build trust instead of tension. If you've ever shared an email draft and thought, or I should say, if you've ever stared at an email draft and thought, "ooh, does this sound okay?" then this one is for you. You don't want to miss it. All right, that's it for today's 15-minute mastery, which is actually more like 18-minute mastery today. Better conversation doesn't mean talking more. It means connecting better. So try a new rhythm this week. And I'll circle back with you next time on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you then.